Prince Louis, the cheekiest member of the royal family, has a knack for capturing attention wherever he goes. At just 6 years old, his playful energy and unfiltered honesty have made him a fan favorite. However, during a Christmas gathering hosted by Princess Kate, Louis's innocent comment about Queen Camilla sparked a moment of unexpected drama that left the nation talking. As the family navigated this rare crack in their polished facade, questions about Louis's relationship with Camilla and the family's dynamic began to surface. Could this single moment hint at deeper complexities within the royal household, or was it simply the candid nature of a young boy unafraid to speak his truth? Let's get into details. People have always been interested in Prince Louis, the youngest member of the Wales family, because of his cheeky grin and naughty behavior. From the moment he was born, Louis seemed meant to make everyone he met happy. His birth on April 23, 2018, at St. Mary's Hospital in London on a sunny spring morning, was met with the kind of excitement that could only come from a royal birth. Gun salutes could be heard all over the city, church bells tolled, and people all over the country fell in love with the newest member of the House of Windsor. Prince William and Princess Kate thought a lot about what to name him. Louis Arthur Charles paid tribute to both his grandpa, who is now King Charles III, and the late Louis Mountbatten, who had a big impact on royal history. Nobody knew how much personality the boy would bring to the name, even though it had a long history. Even during his naming on July 9, 2018, early signs of who he was became clear. It was a very royal event that took place at the Chapel Royal in St. James's Palace. George and Charlotte, Louis's older siblings, stood proudly next to him. You could already see how close they were becoming as siblings. The family photos from that day were very sweet and showed a warmth that people who follow the royal family have come to admire. It became clear as Louis grew up that he wasn't one to blend in. His first times in public were truly unforgettable. When Trooping the Colour happened in 2019, Louis waved with pure joy from the balcony of Buckingham Palace. His big hands and wide eyes made him the star of the show right away, showing that even the tiniest royals can be in charge. People liked him because of times like these, which led to his growing image as the most naughty member of the family. At home, life was a mix of royal rules and being close to family. During his early years, he lived at Kensington Palace and Anmar Hall, where William and Kate worked hard to keep things normal and duty-bound. Little things made Louis's days happy, like playing outside with his siblings and gardening and baking with them. As a result of Kate's caring parenting style, her children had as normal of an education as possible, even though they were royal. These were the years when his relationship with George and Charlotte grew stronger. George, who was the oldest and would become king, was more quiet and calm most of the time. But Charlotte became the big sister in charge. Charlotte did a great job in her role, whether she was guiding Louis during public events or dealing with his antics with the patience of someone much older than her. However, Louis's lively nature often made him and his siblings clash with each other. In a memorable moment, he tried to blow out Charlotte's light during a Christmas service, which made her very angry and everyone else laugh. Beginning to go to Wilcox Nursery School in 2021 was a big step in Louis's young life when it came to school. Pictures of him on his first day show him smiling with joy, his small backpack slung over his shoulders. That moment perfectly showed how interested he was and how ready he was to try new things. However, life in the Wales home wasn't always easy. As famous people, they had to deal with the stresses of royal life while keeping their kids from being too closely watched. By 2022, things had changed for the family. When they moved to Adelaide Cottage in Windsor, they had more room and privacy for their growing kids. At this point, Louis moved on to Lamrook School, an elite prep school in Berkshire, where he joined George and Charlotte. The kids' move was the start of a new part of their lives that would unfold in the coming years, affect their schooling and bonds in a more isolated setting. Even though Louis brought a lot of happiness and beauty to his family, there was always something interesting going on when he was with Queen Camilla. People who saw the young prince and his step-grandmother couldn't help but notice that they were not very close. Louis seemed closer to his maternal grandparents, Carol and Michael Middleton, and even to his grandfather, King Charles, but his relationship with Camilla seemed less clear. Was it just because they didn't get to talk much because they had different schedules, or was there more to the story? Public performances didn't give us much information. Louis was seen being gently led along the path on one memorable Christmas Day walk from Sandringham to church. People who follow the royal family were curious about how they felt about each other after that brief moment of connection. Louis usually showed a lot of love for other people, so this exchange felt tame in comparison. Even with these small changes, Louis's growing personality and charm kept winning people over. His animated faces at the events for Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee in 2022 went viral on the internet right away. He showed that royal tasks could still be fun by making funny faces and moving around in a playful way. His mix of mischief and cute innocence made him stand out even in the Windsor family, which was very well known. People were interested in Louis for more than just his pranks. Not only did people like his charm, but they also liked how honest he was, which was rare for someone so young in the royal family. Even though this person was honest and cute, it would eventually lead to a shocking moment that everyone in the country will never forget. There was no doubt that Prince Louis was a one-of-a-kind member of the royal family at this point. He mixed history with his own unique style. He had a unique mix of royal traditions and a pretty normal youth because his parents, Prince William and Princess Kate, made choices that made it that way. Louis spent a lot of his early years living with his family at Kensington Palace. There, he experienced both structured and unrestrained fun. Louis had a lively personality that came through whether he was chasing his older siblings around the palace grounds or doing activities with them outside. Kate Middleton, who is known for being a hands-on mom, often talked about how much her kids loved simple things like baking, farming, and exploring nature. Louis loved these times because they made him happy and gave him a chance to show how energetic and interested he was. Anmar Hall and Norfolk, where the family went on vacation, gave the kids even more chances to grow up away from the public eye. Set in acres of farmland, it became a safe place for Louis to be as loud and lively as he pleased, which would soon become his trademark as a royal child. Though there were also some things that could go wrong. Since Louis was the youngest, he was always the center of attention, even when he didn't want to be. George and Charlotte, his bigger siblings, were very good at being older siblings. Charlotte, in particular, was often seen helping Louis when he went out in public, taking his hand to make sure he followed royal rules. Charlotte was always there to help, but she also knew how to let Louis be Louis, a playful little brother who loved to tease and surprise her. Even though George, the oldest and future king, was more shy, he couldn't help but fall for his younger brother's fun charm. George and Louis became friends over time, which balanced their rivalry as siblings with real love. They proved that even royals could get into trouble by going into the kitchen late at night to eat snacks or playing harmless jokes on their parents. As Louis grew, the things he did became more well-known. This was especially clear during the Platinum Jubilee events in 2022. Even though the rest of the royal family kept their cool and traditional looks, Louis's animated movements and cheeky grins stole the show. At one point, he was seen dramatically covering his ears during the flyover, which quickly went viral as a meme. Because Louis was honest and funny without any filters, he became a huge hit with royal watchers and people all over the world. Behind the scenes, his parents worked hard to guide his active nature and teach him how to be responsible. Many times, Prince William talked about how his late mother, Princess Diana, taught him ideals like being kind, humble, and family-centered. Louis learned these things as he grew up, but because he was so active, the lessons often came with a lot of chaos. Kate also liked Louis's quirks and often used his lively times to teach him something. She saw Louis's interest and trouble not only as problems to solve, but also as chances to help him grow. In 2022, the Wales family made a big move to Windsor's Adelaide cottage. They wanted more room and privacy for their growing kids. The change was a fresh start for Louis and his siblings. They could enjoy a more peaceful life while still getting ready for their parts in the royal family. Because Louis was moving from nursery school to Lamrook, where he joined George and Charlotte, this meant that his routine became more organized. It seemed like the school would be a great fit for the youngest royal because it emphasized creativity and building character. Even though he had more duties, Louis was still the life of the party both at home and in public. When he started learning to play the drums, it was clear that he was really interested in music. As a typical dad, Prince William made a joke about needing earplugs during Louis's practice sessions. It's possible that his siblings felt the same way. Soon, Louis's drum lessons turned into a family activity. Charlotte laughed at his enthusiasm, and George pretended not to be impressed while secretly enjoying the energy he brought to the house. Even though the family was having a good time, there were signs of a more complicated relationship going on. Louis was close to his parents, siblings, and maternal grandparents, but it looked like his relationship with Queen Camilla was less clear. People who follow the royal family were left guessing because they rarely seemed to interact with each other in public. Was it just that they didn't have much time together, or was there something more going on? Camilla, who is known for being quiet, had spent years figuring out her role within the family. Camilla's place in the royal family was one of respect for her hard work, both in her official duties and charitable efforts. However, her connection with William, and by extension his children, was often scrutinized. William and Camilla's troubled past, rooted in the public breakup of his parents' marriage, cast a long shadow. Those who knew William well noted that his relationship with his stepmother was more formal than familial, despite their polite and friendly interactions. Young Prince Louis, being naturally lively and perceptive, may have picked up on the complex dynamics around him even if he was too young to fully comprehend them. Children are astute observers and can sense unspoken tensions or subtle behavioral changes. Given Louis's vibrant personality, it was likely he subconsciously recognized that his interactions with Camilla differed from those with other family members. There were moments when it appeared that Louis and Camilla might grow closer. During a Christmas walk at Sandringham, for instance, Camilla was seen lightly placing her hand on Louis's back to guide him forward. Royal watchers quickly analyzed this brief moment, wondering whether it signified a deepening bond or was simply a kind gesture. Throughout the months, such questions lingered in the background, waiting to surface. Louis's straightforward and honest nature meant it was only a matter of time before his energetic personality clashed with the complex lives of royal families, creating moments that would captivate the nation. As 2023 progressed, Prince Louis continued to establish himself as the youngest and most spirited member of the royal family. Due to his age, he only made a few public appearances each year, but each one was eagerly anticipated. People knew Louis would do something unexpected, whether it was a cheeky move, an unfiltered expression of emotion, or a candid moment that distinguished him from his more composed siblings. However, as his personality became more evident, his interactions with certain family members, especially Queen Camilla, drew increasing attention. Over the years, Camilla, now Queen Consort, had transitioned from a controversial figure to a respected member of the royal family. Earning this position was no small feat, but within the family's inner circle, her relationships appeared more complex, particularly with Prince William and his children. While George and Charlotte were generally warm and welcoming toward her in public, Louis's behavior seemed less predictable. Many wondered if this reflected his innate honesty or pointed to deeper dynamics. One thing was certain, Louis's interactions with other family members were markedly different from those with Camilla. For instance, Louis shared a deeply loving bond with King Charles III. Charles, known for his passion for nature and storytelling, spent considerable time with his grandchildren, teaching them about environmental conservation and recounting royal history. This warm and nurturing relationship contrasted with the nuanced dynamics between Louis and Camilla, highlighting the unique web of connections within the royal family. Louis, who had a lot of energy and a mind that was always wondering, seemed to enjoy these encounters. Pics and stories of their time together showed a grandpa who loved and cared for his active grandson. Camilla's role in Louis's life, on the other hand, seemed less important. People who saw them said that they rarely showed love in public, and when they did, it felt more like a business deal than a family reunion. It wasn't something that anyone in the family said out loud, but it was hard to miss the difference. Camilla's quiet personality and Louis's outgoing personality made it clear that they didn't get along. It wasn't just Camilla and Louis who were talked about, a lot of it was caused by the long-lasting bad blood between William and Camilla. Even though they were polite in public, people who knew them well often hinted at how complicated their relationship really was. William had a lot of thoughts about his mother, Princess Diana. Diana's rough marriage to Charles and Camilla's part in it were wounds that had never fully healed. William had learned to get along with Camilla, but their conversations often seemed more like they were doing what they had to do than being friendly. Louis was still too young to fully understand how important this family past was, but the energy he felt around him probably affected how he behaved. Children have an uncanny knack for picking up on stresses that aren't said, and Louis's honesty made it hard for him to hide how he felt. Soon, his honesty would lead to a shocking and telling moment that put his relationship with Camilla and the way the royal family works in the spotlight. The moment came while the family was celebrating Christmas in December 2023. Every year, Princess Kate hosts the Together at Christmas carol service, which is a celebration of love, thanks, and the spirit of giving. Senior royals, close family friends, and people from the community all came to the event at Westminster Abbey. When the kindness tree was brought out during the evening, it made the celebrations feel more personal. People who came were asked to write sincere notes to the tree to thank someone who had made a difference in their lives over the years. For the kids in Wales, this exercise was both fun and important. George and Charlotte, who were always so calm, carefully wrote down their notes and carried them in a stealthy way, the messages safe because the blank side of their cards was facing outward. Louis, on the other hand, didn't feel that way. As the family walked into the Abbey, he happily showed off his card in the way that he always does. The happiness on his face showed that he was part of such a special moment. It was both sweet and telling. What was written on Louis's card? He wrote in a cute, shaky hand, "Thank you for Granny and Grandpa because they played games with me." The connection was to his maternal grandparents, Carol and Michael Middleton. They were known for having a close relationship with the Wales children for a long time. People all over the country smiled and felt warm feelings about what was said. Even though the note was sweet, it was easy to see what it meant. People in the room raised their eyes when Queen Camilla wasn't mentioned at all. It could have been written off as the careless mistake of a young child, but when Louis was jokingly asked why Camilla wasn't on his list, the situation became more serious. Louis answered straight away and honestly in a way that only a 6-year-old could, "She's lying." The words seemed to float in the air, and the formal but happy atmosphere made them even more powerful. In that brief moment, Kate and William's smiles broke, and their faces showed a mix of surprise and uneasiness. Camilla stopped talking in the middle of a sentence while she was speaking to someone a few feet away. As she looked at the young prince, she had a strange, tight smile on her face, but it was clear that she was upset. Louis, who had no idea what he was doing, went on and on with the sincerity of a child who just couldn't hold a thought in. "She said she would play games with me, but when I went to her room, she yelled at me to leave because I was bothering her." The room had been full of the quiet hum of conversations and songs moments before, but now it felt like it could not be still. Kate got down on her knees next to Louis, put a gentle hand on his shoulder, and whispered something quietly. Her maternal instincts kicked in to calm things down. William, who was standing stiffly next to her, gave Camilla a quick, telling look. The look on his face was hard to read, a mix of shock and maybe a hint of anger. Camilla quickly picked up where she left off with her talk, but her mood had changed. The Queen Consort, who usually stayed calm under pressure, looked tense. Right now, even though it was only a moment, it changed the evening forever. A few people had heard about what happened by the next morning. Something that began as a harmless family custom turned into a royal show, and Louis's words caused a lot of people to wonder what was going on. The media, always interested in the royal family's private lives, broke down every part of the conversation, from Louis's tone to Camilla's response. The public found the event both shocking and strangely familiar. That was a warning that a child's honest words could break the rules of behavior, even in the most formal and controlled settings. It was a turning point for the royal family. They had to face not only how other people saw their relationships but also the forces that had shaped them. The Christmas carol service at Westminster Abbey has always been an important part of royal custom. It is a mix of formality and holiday warmth. Princess Kate held the big event, which showed the royal family at their most gracious and united as a way to celebrate the holiday season. With soft candlelight and holiday decorations, the Abbey created a mood of somber joy that seemed to call to mind the spirit of Christmas. In the crowd of important guests and onlookers, Prince Louis would once again catch the attention of the whole country. As the Wales family participated in the kindness tree activity, Louis held his card in his hand and walked proudly between his parents, George and Charlotte. His siblings carried their cards with the blank side facing outward so that no one would read their private notes, but Louis happily put up his message where everyone could see it. The bravery of his action made people smile. Louis's card had simple but meaningful writing on it, "Thank you for Granny and Grandpa because they have played games with me." It was a sweet and true way for him to show his love for his maternal grandparents. It was no secret that they were very close. The Middletons had always been very active in William and Kate's children's lives, giving them a sense of stability and warmth in the midst of the excitement of royal life. People did notice that the message did not name Queen Camilla. Even though the moment was heartwarming for the adults there, this absence may not have seemed important, but for a kid like Louis, his choices were. Often showed the truth as it was. Someone in the crowd joked that Camilla wasn't there, and Louis, being the honest person that he is, said she's lying. It got cold in the room, conversations broke down, and the sudden silence made the faint rustling of papers sound unbearable. Kate's hand naturally fell on Louis's shoulder, and even though she seemed calm, the tension in the room was palpable. Standing a little behind Camilla, William gave her a quick, telling look. Camilla smiled politely, but it was hard to see. It was a rare event for the royal family's carefully built facade to crack in real time. Louis went into more detail in a way that only a child could, even though he had no idea what he was saying. "She told me she would play games with me, but when I went to her room, she told me to leave. She told me I was bothering her." The crowd, which had been enjoying the party mood, was now glued to the drama developing. Louis's comment seemed innocent at first, but it carried a lot of weight, showing that things were tense in the royal family. Like any experienced queen, Camilla quickly calmed down. She went back to talking to a guest nearby, and her face didn't show any signs of the unease that had been there just moments before. But people who were close to the family knew that the statement would stick out. Kate knelt down to comfort Louis and whispered something nice to him. She was feeling very protective. William, on the other hand, put on a tough face, but his tense body language showed how hard it was for him to keep things under control. The incident put a shadow over what would have been a perfect party. As the night went on, the royal family, used to being watched by the public, handled it with grace, but the whispers from other people there were hard to ignore. By the next day, word of Louis's honest comment had spread, leading to a lot of discussion in the news. The headlines went from Prince Louis's Christmas honesty leaves royals in stitches to what Prince Louis's words reveal about Camilla's role in the royal family, which was meant to be a joke for the public. It was a rare and honest look into how one of the world's most watched families works. Not only did it matter what Louis said, but also what those words meant. Some saw it as a miracle of Camilla's complicated role in the family, which has been shaped by decades of history and ongoing tensions. Others saw it as the pure honesty of a young boy who wasn't worried about royal procedures. Behind the palace walls, though, the damage was more complicated. Even though Louis's comment probably wouldn't cause a direct fight, it did start a talk about how the family gets along with each other. It was clear that Camilla was queen consort, but it wasn't as clear how she knew William's children personally. Was Louis's comment just a simple mistake, or did it point to a bigger problem that needed to be dealt with? The situation made Kate and William realize how hard it can be to raise kids in public. Even though Louis's honesty was sweet, it reminded them of how unpredictable someone with such a lively personality could be. It also brought attention to the fine line they had to walk as parents trying to keep their families' relationships real while also meeting the needs of a worldwide audience. The family kept up with their normal routines in the days that followed, going to public events and getting ready for the new year. Still, people thought about it for a long time, which led to arguments about the nature of royal ties and how the past affects people today. Often showed the truth as it was. Someone in the crowd joked that Camilla wasn't there, and Louis, being the honest person that he is, said she's lying. It got cold in the room, conversations broke down, and the sudden silence made the faint rustling of papers sound unbearable. Kate's hand naturally fell on Louis's shoulder, and even though she seemed calm, the tension in the room was palpable. Standing a little behind Camilla, William gave her a quick, telling look. Camilla smiled politely, but it was hard to see. It was a rare event for the royal family's carefully built facade to crack in real time. Louis went into more detail in a way that only a child could, even though he had no idea what he was saying. She told me she would play games with me, but when I went to her room, she told me to leave. She told me I was bothering her. The crowd, which had been enjoying the party mood, was now glued to the drama developing. Lewis's comment seemed innocent at first, but it carried a lot of weight, showing that things were tense in the royal family. Like any experienced queen, Camilla quickly calmed down. She went back to talking to a guest nearby, and her face didn't show any signs of the unease that had been there just moments before. But people who were close to the family knew that the statement would stick out. Kate knelt down to comfort Lewis and whispered something nice to him. She was feeling very protective. William, on the other hand, put on a tough face, but his tense body language showed how hard it was for him to keep things under control. The incident put a shadow over what would have been a perfect party. As the night went on, the royal family, used to being watched by the public, handled it with grace, but the whispers from other people there were hard to ignore. By the next day, word of Louis' honest comment had spread, leading to a lot of discussion in the news. The headlines went from Prince Louis' Christmas honesty leaves royals in stitches to what Prince Louis' words reveal about Camilla's role in the royal family, which was meant to be a joke for the public. It was a rare and honest look into how one of the world's most watched families works. Not only did it matter what Louis said, but also what those words meant. Some saw it as a miracle of Camilla's complicated role in the family, which has been shaped by decades of history and ongoing tensions. Others saw it as the pure honesty of a young boy who wasn't worried about royal procedures. Behind the palace walls, though, the damage was more complicated. Even though Louis's comment probably wouldn't cause a direct fight, it did start a talk about how the family gets along with each other. It was clear that Camilla was queen consort, but it wasn't as clear how she knew William's children personally. Was Louis's comment just a simple mistake, or did it point to a bigger problem that needed to be dealt with? The situation made Kate and William realize how hard it can be to raise kids in public. Even though Louis's honesty was sweet, it reminded them of how unpredictable someone with such a lively personality could be. It also brought attention to the fine line they had to walk as parents trying to keep their families' relationships real while also meeting the needs of a worldwide audience. The family kept up with their normal routines in the days that followed, going to public events and getting ready for the new year. Still, people thought about it for a long time, which led to arguments about the nature of royal ties and how the past affects people today. The royal system made his relationship with Camilla more complicated even though they didn't say it. As soon as the new year started, the royal family turned their attention to their tasks. Public engagements and appearances took up most of their time. This meant that King Charles III and Queen Camilla had to keep strengthening their roles as ruler and consort, which required them to show that they were stable and united. Camilla had been put to the test before when she had to deal with public criticism, and this time was no different. Insiders said she stayed calm, but there were hints that she wanted to close the gap between herself and William's children, including Louis. The Middletons also played a big part in getting through the fallout. Carol and Michael Middleton, who were very important in Louis's life, gave him the support he needed at those times. Their home in Bucklebury, which was often called a safe haven for the Wales children, gave Louis a normal life away from the big events of the royal family. Activities like baking cookies, going for walks in the country, and playing simple family games made Louis feel safe and like he belonged. The event became a moment of relatability for the people. People from all walks of life connected with Louis's unfiltered honesty. It served as a lesson that even the most carefully curated lives can be affected by honest statements of truth. People all over social media praised the young prince for being brave, and many said that Kate and William should be proud of having kids who aren't afraid to say what they think. But it also started new talks about Princess Diana's legacy and how her memory still affected the way the family worked. People also thought about the monarchy in a larger way after the event. People are looking for more openness and honesty from institutions around the world, and Louis's comment, even though it wasn't meant to, seemed to show exactly what people want in their leaders. People often think of the royal family as distant and unapproachable, but a 6-year-old's simple words made them seem more human. For people who support the monarchy, it was a victory that showed how the institution is changing. Critics saw it as a reminder of how hard it can be for a family to find a balance between custom and modernity. For Louis, life quickly went back to how it was before. He spent his days at school, on family trips, and enjoying the easy things that kids love. He probably didn't remember what happened at Christmas. It was just a brief moment in a life full of wonder and excitement. Still, his place in the family was different. Louis was the youngest of the Wales siblings. He brought a lot of energy and honesty to the family, which complemented George's calm personality and Charlotte's caring nature. Between them, the three siblings made up a new generation of royals. Each had their own unique traits and added to the family's history. Louis's place in the royal family is likely to stay the same in the future because he is honest. Whether it's through his funny pranks at public events or his honest moments out of the blue, he has already made a name for himself as a person who draws people in and wants to connect with them. Being able to be himself without any shame, even in the most formal situations, says that he might be able to bring a new point of view to the monarchy as it moves forward. Even though the Christmas surprise only lasted a moment, it had a huge effect on many people. It reminded the royal family and everyone else that behind the titles and customs are real people who have to deal with feelings, expectations, and relationships just like everyone else. At the center of it all was a young prince whose honesty, far from being a flaw, became a sign of realness in a world that often puts more value on looks than on truth. That's the end of today's video. If you've made it this far, be sure to watch more videos on the channel.